Hey everyone, I'm Follygon here with your daily dose of ZBrush and work motivation. Today I have a ZBrush tutorial for you. We're going to be covering the creation of a stylized female face one step at a time, one video a day for this entire week. 5 videos, that'll be Monday through Friday. Today is Tuesday, the second video of sculpting the eyes. Click the link in the description if you missed the previous video. That'll take you to step 1, sculpting the basic shapes of the head, and show you some great tools to study anatomy, all right inside of ZBrush. Now let's go ahead and take a look at creating these eyes and get started. So grab your pen, grab your popcorn, whatever you need, and let's dive right in. Okay, here we are with our base mesh that we were working with in part 1, so we still have our head and our neck pieces here that we can toggle between. So now we're going to take a look at making some eyes for this character. So let's go ahead and start real quick just by duplicating our head mesh. So we have a second one here that we can insert some eyes on. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit the B key and pull up my eye brush. And this eye brush is a brush that I made myself, and I'm just going to show it to you here. I'm going to go ahead and delete these lower subdivision levels so that we can actually insert it on our mesh. And it's gonna look very droopy and awesome. Taking a look at this brush, if you have never seen this brush before, it's a custom brush that I made, and you can go ahead and download this brush for free. I'll go ahead and throw up a link to the tutorial video where you can create this custom insert eye mesh brush for yourself. In that video, I also link to where you can download this brush that I made for free if you don't feel like making your own. So once you have that, go ahead and insert your eye mesh brush right in here. And from here, we're just going to turn on our poly frame. And after I line up these eyes a little bit better here, size and all that won't be super important. It depends on the stylized look that you're going for, so maybe you want some larger eyes. Maybe you want more tilt or more of a droopy look to your eyes. I'm going to keep them fairly even with a little bit of an up tilt to them. So taking a look at this, as soon as you go ahead and throw your eyes in here, you're gonna notice a few things about your head. So that's what's great about this insert eye mesh brush. As soon as you throw it in here, you're gonna realize, oh, I need to make some changes around here. I need to pull in this shape. So you're gonna start making some changes just with your move brush to align better with those. Make sure you have your references up for your anatomy knowledge and your practice for your study. If you haven't seen the first video, go ahead and watch that. You're gonna learn where you can grab this guy right here, or this gal, I'm sorry. And in here, you're gonna get a ton of just great reference information that you can use right inside of ZBrush. And go ahead and turn on your transparency, and you can go ahead and use this as a great reference. So if you look here at where my eye is compared to where the eye is in this mesh down below, this one's a lot smaller than the eye I have inserted here. And that's okay. You can, this is a stylized face that we're creating. We're going for a stylized appeal. Of course, we want to kind of hold true to those rules and bony landmarks that we kind of see in the face, but we can also have kind of our creative freedom with it. So go ahead, feel free to experiment. If you're wanting to create something anatomically correct, this is absolutely useful for that. So go ahead and use this for your reference as well. But again, make sure you have either some real images of people on another monitor or in an anatomy book or something that you're referencing next to you so that you can kind of get an idea. You don't only want to be referencing other people's work. In the previous video, I talked about how it's kind of like playing telephone. The more you reference other people's work, sure, they might be doing something like really great, something that you want to copy, but you start to lose information as it kind of gets passed down the line as you're copying what other people copied. So that's definitely not a good habit to get into. So I'm adjusting the cheekbones right here, making as many changes. Maybe I'll toggle between the skull here, and I'll turn my transparency on, get an idea where these shapes are in relation to each other. And as I go, I'm just gonna make those changes. I'm gonna go ahead and perform a split hidden on these eyes. and also on these eyelids here. Well, actually, before I do the eyelids, I'm going to adjust their shape a tad bit. So I'm just going to pull these out to each side and just turn on my transpose tool and control click. That's going to mask out the one that I did not click. It's a great quick way to perform a mask. Turn on press my D key so I can see my dynamic subdivision levels. Push this in a bit more along the upper brow as we're working there, and we'll fix that as we make more changes here. So you're going to find out as you're working with this, if you've never noticed this about eyes before, the eyelids, they don't completely like wrap around the sphere of the eye, right? And the eye's not a perfect sphere either, but in this case, for this stylization, we'll leave it as a perfect sphere, and then we'll add a little pupil on it here in a minute. Looking back at these eyelids, the eyelids are more flat, and they're more flat up against the skull, the eye socket. So you want to kind of stretch them out a bit just to get that idea there. And then we can go ahead and split those eyelids just like that so that they are separate subtools as well. I'm going to take our eyes that we have here, push them in a bit. Let's see here. I'm going to take this upper eyelid, turn on my inflate brush. I subdivide it a few times so that I can actually make some changes here. I'm just going to I'm holding the Alt key right now, so I'm just de-inflating around that area. And I'm going to do the same thing for this lower lid as well. So just Alt key with the inflate brush, push in, and attempt to get that more thin, and then I'll just smooth it out a bit. This lower lid is it's going to be more up against the cheek here, so we're gonna pull up this shape a bit. Make sure you're looking at your other views. You don't want some crazy angles to start happening. You don't want this huge dip here between these shapes, so we can adjust that as we go. And maybe we'll pull that shape up into the corner of the eye there a little bit. Wrap that around, and that'll be fine, don't worry about that. If you take a look at the shape of the eyelid, you get this sharp transition at the beginning area here on the top lid, and then it gently kind of curves back around to the other corner. So there's actually a little bit of another bump there as it goes over where the pupil will be. And for the bottom lid, if you're looking at this, so I'm going to mask out the corner real quick here and attempt to get that shape real quick just so you can see what I'm talking about for the bottom lid. But essentially what we want, and it looks like we have, go ahead and delete that extra lid if you got one of those. So you got this little bit of a curve that happens here, and then it comes back into the other corner. So it's more of an S curve for this bottom lid. And the same thing is true for that top lid. You're going to see a lot of those S curve shapes as you're working on the human body. It exists in the forearms, your legs, extending down from your femur. They're everywhere. So as I'm adjusting this shape, you're looking at the lower lid here, and if you're looking at your reference, you see that this is a pretty sharp transition. That type of transition doesn't actually exist on the human body, but if we're creating something stylized, maybe that's a shape that we want there, maybe that's a shape language that we want to experiment with. For me, it is not for right now, so I'm actually going to blend that in. I'm going to merge this bottom lid into the face. I'm going to Dynamesh it together. But for the top lid, I'm actually going to keep this separate. And the reason I'm keeping the top lid separate, but the bottom one I am not, is because for that top lid, keeping this separate, look at this, we get a really sharp transition here, and that's a shape that I'm going to want to keep throughout this entire sculpt. I will merge them down later in the sculpt. I don't know if I'll do it in this video. It's a shape that I want to carry through the entirety of the sculpt, so it's something I want to make sure is separate. And that kind of holds true for a lot of stuff that you're working on. If you find that you can't get a sharp transition or a sharp kind of cutoff like this in a specific part of your mesh, it's a good idea to attempt to separate those meshes. Maybe you can redynamesh them later, but if you separate them, you're going to be able to get a lot harder shape transition there. So I'm just going to do a little bit of work on these eyes, and I'm just going to speed up the video so we can kind of see that process happening more quickly. And once I'm done with that, we'll come back. Alright, so I just painted those eyes real quick just so we could see what they looked like sitting in the eye socket. Throwing some paint on there oftentimes makes it easier to kind of tell where your eyes should sit, where they should align better. And it was just a quick paint that I threw on there, maybe like 5 minutes. But hey, now we're going to take a quick look at readjusting this top lid. And then the last thing that I'm going to show you how to do here is throw on some eyelashes and some eyebrows real fast. So I'm not going to mess with this top eyelid too much here, just a second more of adjusting, and then we'll get right into that. So, alright. It looks good enough for our purposes right now. Pull down this lid. Remember that you want that in and then S curve, so you want that to be about right up to this point. That's when you want that curve to start pushing out. Alright. So next up, eyelashes. So go ahead and take your top lid if you still have that. And I'm just going to duplicate it so I have something to throw this mesh on. And you're going to grab the curved tube snap brush, and you can find that under B, C, and then look for your curve brushes here, and it should be under T, curved tube. So go ahead and press T, or I'm sorry, that's clay tubes. So go ahead and press B, C to look for your curve brushes, and then curved tube snap brush here at the bottom. And I'm just gonna take this and draw along this eyelid that I duplicated. And I deleted my subdivision levels so that I could insert a mesh on it. If you don't, you can't insert a mesh. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw this out along that eyelid as best as I can and see what it looks like. And my color's set to black, so let's fix that. Make sure our poly paint's off. There we go. Looks a little thick, so let's lower our brush size. Make sure that it's red. If you try and lower your brush size while it's on here, it's not what you want. You want it to be red. So lower it down to maybe around there. Click on it again. Well, it looks a bit closer. And then I'm just going to click and drag it to straighten it out a bit. That'll help align it. Let's make it a bit smaller. Sure, let's go with that. So I'm just going to click on my mesh anywhere. Poly frame, I see that yellow, that's the group I want. Now I'm just going to go down to delete hidden, which is under geometry. I always keep it in a quick menu right here, but for you guys it'll be under modify topology and then delete hidden. Alright, now let's just adjust this guy here a little bit. And I'm just going to subdivide it a few times so I can smooth it, make it taper down a bit, and adjust the shape on this corner as well. And then I'm gonna throw some black poly paint on it. So let's try a Skin Shade 4 material. I like this one for my hair. And we'll fill that object, make sure MRGB is on. Oh, and our color. Turn that up to 100. Hey, there we go. Alright, so we got the beginnings of some nice eyelashes that we can work with. And this is the same process that I use for inserting eyebrows. I'm just gonna tuck that in there so it looks like it's tapering down a bit. And we'll do the same thing over here, just smooth it out. And then from there you can take your snake hook brush, BS, of course, and then snake hook down here. And I'm just gonna make my brush real small and try and pull out a shape so you can see how you can get the beginnings of some eyelashes here if you want to make individual lashes. There's a couple different ways you can do it. Make our brush real small, pull out these shapes just real quick here so we can see what that looks like. And then you would do the same thing for the bottom lash there. Let's go ahead and throw in some eyebrows real quick just so we can kind of have all the elements there. And grab that curved tube brush again. And I'll just draw along the brow, just like that. Those are a bit big. And with this, what I want to do is I want to lower my Z intensity here to about 50. When you're using a curved brush, lowering your intensity is going to make your mesh that you're inserting, click on that again, flat. So the lower that number is, the more flat it will be, the more squashed it will be. And we're also going to try something a little different here. We're going to go into our curve menu, or not our curve menu, but our stroke menu. So if you go up here in stroke, grab this right here, click and drag it, throw it over to the side. We're gonna open curve modifiers down at the bottom, click on size, open up our curve fall off, and adjust this curve. We'll try something like this. So what this is saying is start off small, get fatter, and then get small again. So let's click on it again, see what happens. That looks pretty good. So let's up this maybe a bit. Try that again. I like that shape that we're getting. Let's go ahead and stick with this. I'm just gonna get rid of that. And then I'm just going to delete hidden again so I can have just those eyebrows as a separate piece. And let's do the same thing for these eyebrows. So let's do Skin Shade 4, black, MRGB fill object. Awesome. And then I'm just gonna adjust their shape ever so slightly. We won't mess with them too much here. Just a little bit of character to them. You can mess with these as much as you want, depending on the stylized look or character that you're trying to create. Let's go ahead and call that good for our purposes here. So that's all the elements that you're gonna need, at least for getting started with these eyes. As we move on, we're gonna take a look at the nose, the mouth, the ears, and some other elements, and we'll come back through and we'll finish stuff some more as we're working. Let me know down in the comments if you're enjoying these tutorial videos, and if you are, go ahead and click that subscribe button so you can be notified of the new videos that are coming out for the rest of this week. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, hope you learned something new, maybe got a little inspired to work on your own stuff, and I'll see you guys next time.